Healing for the Soul podcast, with this being season number 4, episode number 79. I am your host, Robin Stoltman, and today I have my guest, Dave Coombs, who is a songwriter, an entrepreneur, an Amazon best-selling author, and today he's on the show talking about Touched by Music. And before we get started, remember every week I feature different guests to help you become the best version of yourself through different methods you may not have heard of or thought of. So let's get started. Thank you so much, Dave, for being here. Really appreciate it.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Robin. This is going to be a lot of fun.
Yes, it definitely will be. So what is your specialty and who do you like to work with, or who is your music for?
Well, my specialty, I guess, now is writing and producing and spreading my music around the world. It's instrumental piano music for the most part, and it's soothing, relaxing. It's very peaceful kind of music, and it's for basically anybody that needs to have some peace and quiet and stress reduction in their life. Now, that may include this day and time, but just about everybody.
Yep.
But it's of all ages. I have senior citizens to young children that love my music. I have one school teacher. She teaches a kindergarten class, and she said that when I want my young kids that normally won't calm down and do anything for anybody, that I put on your music, and your music is the only one that they will listen to and go curl right up on their little blanket and go to sleep.
That is awesome, especially with little kids. And I know something to get for my kids.
That's right. Well, it's important, I think, that even children and adults and teenagers, everybody needs to have some relaxation and downtime and not just be go, 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 go all the time. It'll wear you out. So you need some chill out time.
That is very true. I agree with you. So who or what inspired you to do this work that you do?
Well, I guess I came by it from growing up in a musical family. My my mother and father both played the piano. My grandmother Combs, she played musical instruments. She was born in 1894, well over 100 and some years ago. So, but
Yeah.
before electricity even was in a lot of places, and so she played the old auto harp and an old pump organ, and she could really sing, and she loved her music at church. She loved to sing solos at church, and I'm sure she taught my father how to play the piano because he played by ear also. And my mother, on her family, she took piano lessons when she was a little girl, so she could read music. But so I grew up around with the piano in the house with music all the time. And of course, when we were at church on Sunday morning, Sunday night, Wednesday night prayer meeting, we were singing hymns, and I loved the choir music and the organ and piano duets and that kind of thing. So music, I think, just surrounded me. It was just part of my life all since I was young. And only when I was like 33 years old did I write my first song. Now, it seems strange at this point since I've written over 120 songs since then.
That's a
But before
lot.
that, I had written none. And I've always wondered why did it take me 33 years to write my first song? And one of the reasons is nobody ever told me I could write a song. Now, that sounds funny, but you know how
It was interesting.
some people don't know about their gift because they've always been told, you'll never amount to anything, or you can't do this. It's all this negativity that gets poured into a young child's head that says, now you're always going to be this, or you're never going to succeed. Whereas if they have, some children are fortunate to have a mentor that says, little Johnny so and so or little Susie, you could grow up and be anything you want to be. If you want to be a fabulous musician, you can be that. And that kind of encouragement in a young, impressionable mind means a whole lot. So I'm not trying to put down all the people that I grew up with and everything. They didn't know any better, I guess, than to not tell me that I could do something. But finally, when I was 33 years old, I did write my first song, and it was a tune that was very pretty. It was something I played on the piano just for relaxation and for fun. 2 years later, it got named as I played it in a christening service for our godchild, Rachel. And I decided to name it Rachel's Song. And then we got Rachel's Song recorded as a professional demo recording when I was traveling on business into Nashville, Tennessee, for the company I was working with. And that recording of Rachel's song as a demo got played on the radio by a friend of mine. And then the reception from that point on, it took on a life of its own, because everybody that heard it from the radio wanted to know, what is that song? How can I get a copy of it? I love that song. And so I got it put on a lot of radio stations, eventually on every easy listening radio station in the entire country. And I started getting fan mail, people writing me letters. They'd track me down and send me a letter and say, I want a copy of Rachel's song. Can you send me one? And so I was sending out individual copies of just Rachel's song, cassette tapes usually. And that basically made the light bulb come on in my mind that maybe there's a business opportunity here as well. And so I need to find out, can I turn this music that I've created into a business that I could possibly even make a living at? So I started down that road. And this was in like 1986 when it was recorded. 1988, I came out with my first album of Rachel's song and other songs I'd written. It got played on the radio much more frequently then. And like I said, the fan mail started coming in, and I started being able to sell cassette tapes and CDs. And then I decided there's got to be a way to sell it to the masses. It was these letters I was getting from people were so personal about how the music touched their life and changed their life. And, from little children being born to my music to older folks, maybe in their ailments, that it helped ease their pain. Families were married to my music. It was the letters just were incredible. And so I decided I need to find a way to spread this around the country. So I tried to go through the big box stores, the record stores, the standard route you would normally think. I got nowhere. They wouldn't even give me the time of day. They never heard of Dave Combs. They didn't particularly like instrumental music only. They only wanted country and rock and roll and jazz, and mine wasn't any of those. So they didn't want to have anything to do with me. So I had to find another way. This was a kind of a roadblock situation with me as an entrepreneur. I've always had the philosophy that if you run into a wall, you find out a way to go over it, under it, around it, or through it, one or the other. You just get to the other side. There is a way. So I did come up with a way that, quite by accident, actually, a friend of mine had a friend of hers that had a gift shop in Old Town Alexandria. And she wanted me to give her a CD of Rachel's song that she could give to this shop owner and for her to play in her store, which she did. And then next thing I know, I get a phone call from this lady, Jane, that owns this gift shop in Old Town Alexandria. The name of the shop was America. She sold everything patriotic, red, white, if it was red, white, and blue, she sold it. And she played patriotic music in her shop. And a couple of days later, after she started playing the Rachel songs, I get a phone call from Jane at the shop. And she says, introduced herself, and she says, Dave, you got to help me out. She said, every time your song comes on my CD system, the customers in my store come over to the counter and say, do you have that music for sale? I want to take that home with me. And she said, I don't. I said, can you help me? So we reached an agreement on how much I would charge her and that kind of thing. And she said, can you bring me some tonight? I said, well, yeah, I guess so. So my wife and I boxed up a box of the tapes and CDs and took them down to Old Town Alexandria that night. We were living in Maryland, just up the river. And so we took them to her that night and thought, well, this is going to be interesting. A couple of days later, the phone rings again. Jane calling me back. She said, Dave, I got a problem. Those are all gone and I need some more. Saying, let's just double the order. So I big box of tapes and CDs down to Old Town that night. And Linda and I made that trip to take Jane her tapes and CDs every week for over a year. And she sold in that year's time thousands of tapes and CDs of Rachel's song. And that was what opened my eyes to that this does have a commercial value to it. Not only does it help people and helps them emotionally and whatever, but it also has commercial value that I should be taking advantage of too, or try to. And
Yeah.
so, and I'm a computer person. I have a math degree and a physics minor, my MBA from Wake Forest University. So I'm used to doing business analysis. So I took that one gift shop and made me a spreadsheet. This was in like 1988 or 89 time period. And I said, okay, here's my column in my spreadsheet. Here's how many tapes I've sold to Jane at the gift shop. Here's how many CDs that I've sold to her. Here's how much she pays me for each one. Here's how much it costs me to make one to purchase them. And the difference, of course, is my gross profit per item. Added up down at the bottom, and that's my gross profit for that gift shop, all the sales. Well, I looked at that number, and it was an attractive number, and I kept really good records over those times of every time, every order, all that. So I had the data, and that was a good looking number. I said to Linda, I said, okay, what if we had one gift shop in just each of the 50 states? Let's put another column on my spreadsheet, column 1 times 50. Just one. Let's not get greedy, just one. And so you take column 1 times 50, and you look at the bottom line number, start looking pretty good. Okay, this is not bad. I said, okay, let's one more step. What if I had only 5 gift shops in every state? Just 250 in the whole country. All right, 250 times column 1 is column 3. Down at the bottom, I said, Linda, come here. You got to see this. This number is 3 times what I make at AT&T right now. And she goes, whoa. I said, okay, we know what we got to do. We got to find those other 249 gift shops like the one in Alexandria. And that's what got me started down the path of selling my music through gift shops that would play and sell my music. And eventually I ended up with over 1,000 gift shops over the whole country playing and selling my music. And by 1992, I was able to quit my job at AT&T and say goodbye to the corporate life and do nothing but my music from full time from then on.
Wow. That's like first time I'm speechless.
Isn't that amazing? It sounds like a fairy tale. And I promise you that, from 1986 when it was first recorded to 1982 of February when I quit my job, that's what, 6 years. There was a lot of, it wasn't a straight line between the two. It took me a while, to figure it out that I needed to do gift shops, not record stores. And then which gift shops? How do I find the gift shops? How do I prospect with them? How am I going to find out which gift shops in Oregon are going to be good ones to sell my music? And that story is in my book. We probably don't have time to go into all the details of it, but I tell that story in my book about how I found all these gift shops and how I fine-tuned my approach to where instead of calling 30 gift shops to get one that would say yes, you get 29 no's to hear one yes, to finally I figured out a way to target my calling so that I got one yes out of every 5 phone calls instead of 30.
Now that's what I want to know.
All right.
I'm in that same boat myself.
That story is in my book, and it has to do
I'll have to do that.
with my analytics and using data, and I'm a very analytical person. I know that. I guess you could call me an old computer geek, but I've figured out how to calculate where I should be calling. Now, in today's world, we have whole companies that's what they do for a living. They're called analytics and big data. In fact, you can get an MBA in analytics today. Well, back then there was just an MBA of, basically business administration. Well, you can be very specialized today, and people make good money trying to use data to target advertising and to, well, like for example, I know when you're on the computer and you're searching for shopping for something on Amazon, and all of a sudden over on the right's an ad. Well, how did they know I'm looking for so-and-so? You think, wait, is somebody spying on me? It's really eerie sometimes how you can,
Yeah.
through data, they can predict what it is you're going to be asking for on the internet. And those kind of smart analytics are really very valuable today in marketing. But I can't say that mine was that brilliant and smart. It was very simple, but it worked, and it got me going from one level to a whole new level of my business, and enabled me to just go through the roof on my marketing.
I'm glad you said about the analytics because I've asked a few people that already have the success right now about, should I keep track of like how many followers I have, how long they watch my videos. I've kept track of that. And then I quickly learned within 2 weeks that Facebook is not a good place for me to have business or anything on there. Um, like on my personal page, my business page does better, but then I learned that my Instagram does better for getting
Mm-hmm.
more views, getting more people
Mm-hmm.
interacting, and that was just taking the data is
Mm-hmm.
all it was. But I
Yeah.
just needed that short little bit, but I was tracking it every week. So I'm glad that you had said that because that was like my own idea because everybody else was like, no, you don't need to track that. And I'm like,
Oh
but
yes.
if I don't track it, then how can I fix it or know where to spend my time?
Yeah, we in business we always studied that you can only control what you can measure. If you can't
That is
measure
true.
it, you can't control it. And
No.
another principle that I also go by is that you cannot make a turn, a correct turn or a right turn, left turn, anything if you're standing still. Only if you're moving forward can
True.
you make a turn. And that's a principle for entrepreneurs that when you're stuck and don't know which way to go, it's best to take action and move. Because if you're, it's like sitting in the parking lot, turn your car on, leave it in park. You can turn that steering wheel far left and far right, and it's all day long. You aren't going anywhere
Uh-uh.
until you start moving. So the principle is you can only make a right move, a right turn if you're moving. So take action and move, do something, and try to do it as smartly as you can, as intelligent as you can, and with as much help and research and data as you can. But don't be hung up on having to know that all the lights are green between here and the beach before we even leave the house. That's not going to happen. So you need to,
No, it doesn't work.
that doesn't work. You got to head out and take it as you find it.
Well, that helps a lot. That's my friend Glenn, he's been trying to teach me for a couple of years now just to when I'm stuck, what else can I do instead? So much to that now I'm like, okay, so when I am stuck, I'm thinking outside the box
Mm-hmm.
more of what can I do to do what it is that I need to do.
Mm-hmm.
So when you said that, like the car, I'm thinking, yeah, that's the perfect analogy. That really
It is.
is.
You can sit there still and turn all day long. You're not going anywhere.
That actually reminded me of myself when you said that. I'm like, I'm just
Uh-oh.
sitting in the parked car. I'm like, no wonder why I'm not getting anywhere.
You got to get moving. Get moving.
Yes, that is very true. So then that plays into how you were able to market your music and build that successful music business. Was from taking that analytics and taking all of that
Yes, and and
together.
and, and realizing that my place to sell my music wasn't in a store someplace, that record store. It was in a nice gift shop where they weren't really trying to sell just music. You really discovered my music when you went into this wonderful gift shop in Gatlinburg, Tennessee, or Blowing Rock, North Carolina, or wherever you are. There's tourist
Mhm.
towns around, and you go in a wonderful gift shop and you're shopping around. It smells good, it looks good, and if they've got a good sound system, it sounds good in there, and it's very
Well, yeah.
pleasant. And then if they heard my music, they'd say, "Oh, well, I like that music too." So, and where they sold my music, they didn't have a fancy display anywhere. They put it in a basket by the cash register, so that
Really?
as you were checking out, there would be my music CDs and cassette tapes sitting in a basket right by the cash register. And they would say, "Well, what's this?" "Oh, well, that's the music you've been listening to in the store." "Oh, well, I'll take one of those home with me." And that's how my music got sold by the truckload. I mean, it was with thousands of gift shops around the country and over 1,000 selling my music. I was ordering tapes and CDs by the pallet load, and it was a big deal. And then I heard eventually, Robin, from over 50,000 people that wrote me notes and letters about how my music had touched their souls and their lives and how it had helped them heal or helped them get through tough times. And I kept every one of those letters. They're in my basement over here in boxes. And during the pandemic, I went back through those, organized them. Actually, I took them all out and put them on my pool table. And I stacked them on there. And when I finished, you couldn't tell there was a pool table underneath. It was
I
full of,
bet.
it was just boxes. I mean, about 3 feet tall. And so 50,000 is a lot of letters. And that's really was the reason why I decided to write my book, was those people that wrote me their heart and soul, telling me my music was so special. I had to tell the story. And so that's really my book. And I'm not really just trying to sell my book, but it is and when you read it,
No,
prepare to
uh-huh.
be inspired. I want you to be inspired by my stories. And I want you to also be inspired and brought to your stress level down when you listen to my music. So my mission is to spread my peace and happiness around the world through my music and my book as well. So that's my mission in life. And I'm at retirement age, so I'm at the stage where I can begin hopefully enjoying some of the fruits of my labor. But I'm still enjoying doing this. I've I've probably done 70 or so of these podcasts over the last few months, and I meet wonderful people, and it's just a great conversation. And I've made lots of new friends just through this medium.
That is awesome. 'Cause I'm just thinking to myself, a lot of the people like I mentioned a little bit before we started the podcast of how when I've studied successful people, I only picked about 5 of them, like I said. But when I've studied them, they don't always talk about like how hard it was to get going in the
Mm-hmm.
beginning. And so
Mm-hmm.
when you mentioned that for about like the gift shops, you figured out that's where you had to go to, not the big box ones.
Mm-hmm.
So that was like part of the success principles I know is like you got to start small and then work your way up. Because I'm
Mm-hmm.
kind of figuring that out myself with some of the things that I'm doing. I'm like, nobody cares about me yet because they don't know who I am. So I got to start with the small people, the
Mm-hmm.
small businesses, work there first before people realize who I really am and what I can do for them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I always tell people that the one of the basic principles of an entrepreneurship and creating a business is you must have a small, successful model of your business that you know works. Like in my case, it was the gift
Mm-hmm.
shop that had in Old Town Alexandria. I knew that was a model for replication. Because if you have your good business model, whatever it is, whether it's doing a podcast, making a product, selling a product,
Mm-hmm.
doing a service, if you're a consultant kind of person or selling your services, or whether you're a public speaker or whether you're a writer, an author, you've got to make sure that whatever you create, the model that you're going to use to make a business out of it works on a small scale. And because if you you can't make up for a losing business in volume. I mean, all you're going to have is a
No,
bigger losing business. So you need something that works on a small scale. It's like the franchise principle, really, where you take
true.
a model and you just you replicate it. And the more you can replicate it and find ways to replicate it without your personal presence having to be there, that you can basically clone yourself in other entities. That's the recipe for a successful business.
Hope all this is in your book now that I know I got to get your book.
Well, I think it is. It's
I took a couple notes.
I talk about it a lot, and I enjoy talking about it too, because I hope that maybe I can say one thing sometimes that will spark an interest in somebody that says, I get it now. I know what I got to do, and they just take off and they succeed. That would be all the reward I need, is to know that somebody succeeded.
Yeah, because like me, I'm turning my gears all day long trying to figure different things out because I haven't figured out quite yet. And I'm like, if somebody can save some time on for me, I'm like, that always helps. But that's,
Mm-hmm.
like I want to be able to do that for other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's why I started my business, because I'm like, if I can help other people save their time and money, then let's do it, because I figured out what works. So just replicating that with others helps a lot
Mm-hmm.
too. So with the 50,000 letters, does that by chance help keep you going? Like when you first started
Yeah.
getting those letters?
Well, I started getting those letters in, I guess it was 1980. I got the first one really in 1987. And it was from a lady in Atlanta, Georgia, who was stuck in a Christmas, no, it was in Christmas of 1986, that she was stuck in a traffic jam in Atlanta, Georgia at Christmas time, Christmas traffic. And she said, my song, Rachel's song, came on the radio. And she said it turned a terrible traffic jam into a pleasant experience. So that was my first fan letter I got from this lady. Her first name is Dixon, and have tracked her down since then, and thanked her for her original letter all those many years ago. But those kind of letters were really affirming to me, and I love to get my book out and just go to chapter 21 and pick out some select letters or notes that from people that I like to read. Here's one that I got from Carol, and she says, I just want to say thank you for the beautiful music you've brought into our home. My children and I have been through a horrible crisis, and so many days and nights your music has brought peace and relaxation into our hearts and minds. We have a lot of classical piano music, but yours is anointed with a gift that does not come from human abilities. Thank you for being an inspiration to my 11-year-old son in his piano practicing as well. And letters like that are just so special. Here's another one from Diana that says, I want you to know something. I am very grateful for the gift to life that you are giving. In the winter of 1991, I had a nervous breakdown, which was diagnosed as severe depression. Thank God I found a good doctor, but the long road back has been a daily struggle. Please smile today as I tell you your music, Rachel's Song and Springtime Reflections, has indeed been a big part of my recovery. You make me smile. From Diana. So it's letters like that I still love to read those. I mean, who could read those and not just be inspired and uplifted? And I've got thousands of those. It's just amazing.
Wow. That's just I love. I'm just like amazed. It's absolutely amazing.
Well, it's
Yeah,
pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing to me too, and I have to pinch myself sometimes to realize that this really did happen, and I feel really blessed. My wife Linda and I are just so blessed. She is a wonderful. We've been married next month. We will have been married 52 years.
what's the secret to marriage?
Learn how to say yes, ma'am. You're right. No, it just we support each other. We're very complementary in our skills and abilities. We love each other. We're our best friends, and we've done lots of things together. She is a successful person in her own right. She is the controller of the state of North Carolina right today. She runs the
That's
big part of
awesome.
the finances of North Carolina in Raleigh, from our from our library upstairs. They've been working remotely for the last 2 years. But so she has been the controller of the United States in the White House. So she is really a very successful lady and highly thought of, but
Extremely.
extremely. But she's retiring the end of June. She's worked as the controller for 8 years, and her term is up. And we've decided it's time for us to kick back a little bit and do some traveling and visit relatives that we hadn't seen since the pandemic started, and do a little traveling and visitation and enjoy life.
That is awesome. That's just like the way to do it in life.
We hope so.
It just really is. So I would just want to thank you, Dave, so much for your time and your energy in doing this podcast, and then for all of our listeners as well.
Well,
So
I want to thank you for inviting me to come on your program, and I also hope that your listeners as well will be inspired and entertained and maybe learn a little something or other, and hopefully enjoy what they've learned and enjoy some of the music that they've found now.
And what's the best way for our audience to get in contact with you?
It's real simple, real simple. All you got to remember is my last name, which is Combs, Combs, and it's combsmusic.com is my website. And when you go to my website, it's very simple. On the left side of the page on my website is a picture of the cover of my book. And underneath it, it says, go to amazon.com, and it'll take you right to the page where you can read about my book. You can do the listen to it, a sample. You can read the sample of it. You can buy a paperback copy. You can get a Kindle ebook, or you can listen to me read it to you on an Audible book for 8 hours. If you like my East Tennessee country accent, I'll read it to you. And then on the right side of my page is a picture of my CD, Rachel's Song.
Oh, awesome.
And underneath the picture is a link that'll take you to Amazon where you can buy the CD, or you can download the MP3 file for it, or you can stream it if you're an Amazon Music subscriber. And then in the middle of my page, for free, you can click a link that says Play Rachel's Song. And if you do that, you will hear the original demo recording that was made of Rachel's Song. Hadn't been remastered, remixed, anything since 1986 when it was first recorded. You're going to hear what I heard the first time I heard it in the studio. So go on right on my page and play Rachel's Song right there. And then I have an email address. You can, down at the bottom of the page, you can just send me an email if you want to get in touch with me. I read them all and I answer them all. It's dave@combsmusic.com. So I'd love to hear from you, and I hope that we've said something today that will inspire you and entertained you a little bit as well.
Definitely inspired me. Well, I appreciate this so much. So thank you for our audience for tuning in to today's Healing for the Soul podcast. And be sure to follow me, Robin Stoltman, also known as Healing for the Soul, on social media, and my guest as well. So make it a great day. Thank you so much, Dave, for being here.
Thank you, Robin, for having me. It's been a pleasure.